Well, welcome to the channel. I have been waiting to do this for a long time, and I've only got everything together now. It's been nearly 10 years in the making, trying to get this going. Why has it taken me this long? Just a lack of confidence for a start, wanting to get this going. Probably thinking that would it be interesting. What would I say? And yeah, just people are mean online and stuff like that. So anyway, I've gotten over that. I've had enough people that really feel like they want to know more about my own experience and knowledge and training and stuff like that. So this channel is about healing primarily, but also anything there that I can share that might support people who are supporting or caring for young people. Particularly, that would be my expertise, as it were. Expertise because of my experience, not because that's the expert part. That's what that means, really. But anyway, so the name of the channel will be In Your Corner with me. I come from Derry, wonderful city in the northwest of Ireland, and home of the civil rights movement in Ireland. And yeah, I'm really excited about sharing, as I say, my experience and my knowledge and understanding of young people, and I can back that up with all the learning that I've gained, and recently graduated from university as well. So I'll try and throw in some theory as well, and try to make it, relatable. Probably the best thing to say. So, why am I doing this channel? This is, as I say, it's been 10 years in the making, and yeah, how I got here, working with young people, is a lot to do with mental health, and I suppose that's why I really feel it's important to start getting more diverse messages out there, and my intention is that it'll be compassionate and healing and introspective and hopefully empowering for some people, and non-judgmental, and yeah, look, I really hope it helps somebody, directly or indirectly. If it goes on to help somebody feel confident responding to a certain behaviour or something they've noticed, brilliant. If it challenges the way some people think, brilliant. But look, these online spaces can be very, very hurtful and psychologically unsafe for people, and whilst I respect a lot of people want to feel heard, and might not always agree with some things that I might say. Look, that you're entitled to your opinion, but look, my intention again is just to create a community that will just observe good respect and compassion. My primary message would be hope as well, so that's something that has carried me through my career. because my experience of beginning to work with young people, particularly young men, and especially in the city where I'm from, Derry, there were a lot of messages of no hope, and those messages were damaging. Enough times for some of the young people in the area, when they are told, what's the point in engaging in something, what's the point in trying to find work, what's the point in even considering the concept that they might live somewhere else outside of the city. So some people felt trapped, and when they felt like there's no hope and there's no way out, unfortunately people panic, and I'm not generalizing that this is, by the way, I'm not trying to generalize everybody's experience of low mood and feelings of life not worth living, and wanting to take their own life, but my observation was that a lot of people were receiving those messages, and I think that was a compounding reason for people feeling like they had nowhere else to go and no way out. And when you're feeling like that, I can completely empathize and understand why you might just want to end everything. And look, how I can maybe argue why that might be true is comparing it to a very positive time in the city's history, which was in 2012 and 2013, when Derry City was awarded the opportunity to host the FLA, and was UK City of Culture. And what that meant for the area was a lot of money was pumped into the city to revitalise and regenerate the area. There was a lot of innovation in some of the businesses, and people were really hopeful for how that might develop a long-standing future for like maritime activities, like a lot of activities along the quay, along the waterfront, and it was booming, and I really felt that, and I observed that, and I did research around the time that the statistics for antisocial behaviour and domestic violence, and also I believe the stats for people ending their life had reduced. I can go back on that, but that would be my argument. So as I say, like, these messages of hope are important. I have personal experience of losing people to them ending their life. I have to be careful about, I think there's like words that get flagged, so I'm trying to be very careful on what I say here, because I feel like it's very important that I touch on these subjects whilst not trying to trigger anybody, but also respecting that there might be like community guidelines and stuff online. So bear with me when I speak like this, and I'm not being entirely direct. But look, so how did I get here? I lost an uncle, and I lost a young cousin of mine who was the same age as my brother, and I was getting ready for university at the time, and this was around when I was about 18. So we're leaving Derry to go to London, and I went and I was going to study sociology, and I was studying sociology, and I was doing a bit of work while I was out there. But around that time, I had lost my uncle and lost my 17-year-old cousin. As I say, he was the same age as my brother, and his older brother was the same age as me. And the feelings that I had at that time were very difficult because I had those same feelings as well about wanting to end my own life. And I think the only reason that I'm still alive is that I came out, and that was important for me because I wasn't living authentically. And whilst all that experience for me was particularly difficult, the thing that I realised was that I wanted to be here. So with that I also wanted to be here, and maybe with a purpose. So the purpose arrived for me when my cousin's friends rallied together, or were rallied together by some community members and youth workers in the area, and they were asked what would they like in the area. So the traditional method of programming before had been to use their assumptions as to what young people wanted and promote that, and try to encourage young people to engage in the programs that they believed they wanted. So this is a very good exercise in consulting young people, and they said they wanted a boxing club. Now I have been a boxer since I was 8, and I was in a very successful boxing club, and so was my father. So my father was a coach at the boxing club. He wasn't my coach. His coaching colleague Pat McLaughlin was my coach, and my father coached other people. But as I say, the young people wanted a boxing club in the area, and I was honoured to volunteer to be part of that club's formation. So myself and 4 other young men who some of them had boxing experience, some of them were just friends of myself and my cousin's older brother. So yeah, 5 of us, all under 25, so we were young people by that definition. And we formed the club in 2008, and yeah, the club's Springtown Boxing, which I'm very proud to still represent where I can. So I've been a coach for Springtown Boxing since 2008, so we're coming up to nearly 20 years. So that was the start of my career working with young people. I was already a young person myself. And look, the interesting thing that I found getting involved in that, getting involved in the youth work, as it were, for us, was that sport is a really good medium for helping young people feel better about themselves, and it's a great social outlet. It's a great, I don't have to overdo it now. The proof's there. You had to do a lot of fighting in 2008 to get people to get behind sport and get behind boxing, particularly with mental health. Back in 2008, mental health was still quite taboo, and I still think it's quite taboo for some people. It's still very divisive among men. And I think that's where I've gained a lot of experience, is because I've been able to work with young men. And a lot of people are unwilling or unable, they don't understand how to work with young men. But look, boxing has been a great vehicle for helping young people, particularly in what is ranked as the third most deprived area in Northern Ireland, the Ballymagordine Hazelbank area. That's where the club's situated, in the Springtown Creva ward, which is why we went with Springtown as the name of the club. Most boxing clubs traditionally adopt a parish name, and we wanted to be inclusive, and there was a small community of families who weren't Catholic, and they lived in the outskirts of in a place called Coshquan, and we were very much wanting to not let them feel alienated or not able to access the boxing club. So that's the reason why we went with Springtown and not the local parish name, which is Holy Family. Plus there's about 1,001 Holy Family boxing clubs in Ireland. So so why am I here now where I'm at? Because we wanted to do so well for our young people in the boxing club, we went and got additional training and additional experience, and we wanted to better understand their needs. I think it was very important for us, in what drove us was the fact that it was needs led. We were, I don't know, better way of saying it, we were honoured, we were humbled by the fact that we were invited to open a club, and we had previous iterations of boxing clubs in the area, but they didn't last, whether to do with attitudes or environments or governance or just people not getting along, or relationships, or any kind of other management issues. So we were lucky enough that my fatherman was able to kind of mentor us, and I suppose that's where we developed a model of our own about how we wanted to develop a legacy for the area. We wanted our own club that stood the test of time, and thankfully being a McCann and not a McCann, we have kept that going. So very, very, very stubborn. The thing about McCann's and boxing is there's a great history in the city and the sport, from my own grandfather opening up a club in Shantallow, which is where I'm from, in the Marion Hall. He was involved in Long Tower Boxing Club and St Eugene's, and we've been involved with the Spider Kellys, who are another very famous family in boxing in Derry. And his father, my great grandfather Hugh, who really started the County Derry Boxing Board. So, and then, as I say, my father was involved in my club where I grew up in St Joseph's, and he started a club in the Waterside called Waterside Boxing Club. But anyway, the important thing for us was that we needed to be better for our young people. So we helped pilot a project that still exists now, and we were one of the first people out in the street, along with some members of the committee, and we were doing that voluntarily for free. For anybody that doesn't know about boxing or amateur boxing, we don't get paid. The coaches don't get paid. So we do it for the love of, which is what an amateur actually means. We do it for the love of. It's not for pay. It's not because we're worthless. It's because we're priceless. I remember that in a youth club. But anyway, we started getting better training and being better coaches, but being a good sports coach wasn't meeting the other additional needs that we observed for the young people in our area. So, we developed policies like, we'd rather see your face than a fee. So if people didn't have money, we wouldn't deny them coming in and taking part. We adopted a policy there that when the members register, they get a free T-shirt. So they've always got something to train on, because we know that can be an obstacle as well for some of our boxers accessing the sport. As they feel like they might be getting judged. It's not necessarily that it is uniform, but it is good as uniform as well. We knew there was going to be good promotion for the club, but ultimately our boxers did feel like they were part of something, and they loved being able to promote that fact. And everybody knew them when they were walking about the street that they were boxers, which is good. We've actually adopted the title on the back of the T-shirt. Not that I need everybody to know I'm a coach, but it's good for parents and stuff. Whether they're coming to the club, they know who the coaches are. But on the back of all our T-shirts now, it says boxer. So anybody walking about the street now, they can clearly identify these members as boxers and be proud of that. And look, a lot of people would be critical, oh, you're not a boxer and things like that. But I feel like the boxing community realistically are very, very supportive of anybody engaging in the sport. It doesn't matter how long you've been involved in the sport, how many titles and stuff like that. There's no denying a boxer, and they end up like, there's just no denying it. You're a boxer or you're not. So part of the additional training that I went in and got was in working with young people. Now my experience of youth work was what we would call summer diversion stuff now, or summer camps, or summer schemes. So you paid 20p and you got to go on a bus that would have took you up the road to Redcastle, and you went on the amusements and stuff like that. So real diversionary stuff, but nothing developmental. So I had no concept of like how to develop young people to feel more empowered and things like that. Them concepts were alien to me at the time. Until my cousin convinced me that I would be perfect for doing some work with that outreach team again and stuff like that. So I got involved, and I did some banking work with them, and I found it a unique experience. I found it incredibly humbling that I was successful in even getting a position, like, you know. So I had no formal youth work qualifications, and yeah, my experience of working with young people was just through coaching boxing. So when I was given the opportunity, I went in like a boxing coach, and I'll never forget being on a bus and trying to get a young person to sit down, and only because he was annoying the bus driver more than anything. And I very quickly learned that you need a relationship to get anywhere with a young person. They didn't know me at all. They had no reason to trust me or to understand that I really had their best interest at heart, you know, their safety, and they just thought that maybe I was just trying to be a control freak and assert dominance or anything like that there, you know. So yeah, I learned the hard way that yeah, you gotta build a relationship with the young people first. So that was a humbling experience for me. Like, so how do you build a relationship with young people? It's a lot of work. It doesn't have to be a lot of work. Is what I learned in the long run. You just have to be really willing to listen, and that can be difficult for more older people. You know, you have to leave your own agenda to one side, and put the young person front and center of everything that you do. Again, which can be difficult for people to understand and relate to. So on top of my degree in community youth work and my training in therapeutic crisis intervention to train people, I also have training in life coaching and mentoring. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully sharing anything that I can with people who are in this field, and yeah, anybody that really wants to get more from it that way, just get in touch and I'll see what I can do. But yeah, look, let's work on this community. Okay, so what is my expertise, my experience? So started coaching boxing and then moved on to doing detached youth work, which is based on the street. So you're out in the street, you're not working for like a youth club. So the street is your youth club, and what we would do is offer programs as well. So diversionary programs, do a lot of program building with young people, but generally we had a lot of topics there that would normally come up, like drug and alcohol and anti-community behaviour and health and well-being, particularly mental health. And yeah, look, they were the general sort of stuff, but that was detached youth work, so really meeting them on the street and building a relationship, and without the relationship you couldn't get them involved in the programs. Normally we had good incentives for getting them on, you know, like we would take them away and trips and get them to do activities that they may not have been able to access before. I certainly wouldn't have been able to access some of the stuff like archery and rock climbing and cliff jumping and, you know, all them sort of things. I never would have had access myself. So great experience for young people, great hook to get them involved. But while they were getting involved with that, we would be doing a lot of developmental work with the hope that they wouldn't not necessarily hang around on the street, because they're going to hang around in the street anyway, but do it in a way that is not destructive, either to themselves or the community. So yeah, again, primary goal for me getting involved with young people was preventing young people from taking their own life. So from detached work, then I also was working in a youth club. So working in the youth club was a completely different type of modus operandi, because the young people were, you didn't need to recruit them. They were already coming in through the door, so they were, immediately volunteering and participating in that sort of respect. But whilst they were there to associate and play games and just recreate with each other and just not be alone and be off the street as well, which was perceived to be bad or dangerous or potentially criminal, because young people apparently are very bad. But look, the centre-based stuff was another great way of understanding the hierarchy, the bureaucracy that is involved in youth work, necessary as well, because the difference between having a statutory responsibility, and this is stuff I learned by being involved that way, having a statutory responsibility compared to all the other work I was doing, which was like community and voluntary. So understanding that there are areas of need and there are ways of assessing need. So developing a curriculum, stuff like that, is stuff I learned through centre-based youth work. First time I heard about the model for effective practice, which is integral in getting interviews for some youth clubs and stuff like that. But I was able to get my first formal qualification as well, which was really powerful, and I'm grateful for. So that got me immediately a qualification that entitled me to be able to apply for other positions. So I did more street-based youth work. That seemed to be where I was better suited. With my own personal feelings. Sometimes I felt when I was in a centre, I was a glorified babysitter sometimes, that's not the actual case, it's just sometimes that's the way I felt, and I had to get over that, so from there, I started getting involved more like a community worker, because I started having to speak truth to some power, especially unwanted and dangerous elements within the community, where people were basically being vigilantes and out to demonizing young people, which, when they kept seeing this stuff online, further exacerbated feelings that nothing was getting done. And back when this was all happening, and people were getting involved in empowerment groups, as they were called, which was ironic because it just took away, it just was oppressive power, if anything. Anyway, the lack of visibility for some of the work that we did, which was designed not to exploit young people. So the reason why we were quite protective and floated under the radar is, working with young people, we have a tendency to not promote ourselves very well, because you have to be humble, almost toxically humble, and I know I'm guilty of that myself, otherwise it wouldn't have taken me 10 years to do this. But the problem and the difficulty with not putting messages out that there was work being done with these young people was people felt that they had to do something about it, and it fell into the wrong hands, unsafe hands, exploitative hands, really dangerous elements in the community. And their opinion was that nothing was getting done, so we had to start really putting a message out there about what we were doing. I suppose that's something I am pleased to see more of now. Where youth work is promoting itself as best as it can without necessarily exploiting. I know some people do exploit young people that way, and there's lots of photos of crowds of young people. But look, in essence, it's better than the alternative, which is that we don't put ourselves out there. As I say, particularly for that element there that was unsafe. So because of my interactions and championing young people and trying to find ways of protecting them by speaking truth to these elements of power, I was invited to go to Australia and do some residential work, which was a real eye-opener. It afforded me the opportunity to do so much developmental work with young people. There were barriers to how much you could do because this concept of being institutionalized was presented to me, where young people fell victim to the system. And I'm just laughing at that now because I'm involved in a play that's about the system. So yeah, I fully see it. But look, there were structural issues in Australia that and historical issues, that I could relate to with the young people, particularly the Indigenous Australians. Their historical oppression was no dissimilar to my community, and that's when I was first kind of introduced to the concept too of like intergenerational trauma. So a lot of the young people that I had worked with had first-hand experience of abuse and neglect and harm that way. And look, the other thing that I learned too is that it seemed to just get passed on. There were norms created and stuff like that, and there were massive issues when I was out there about even just recognising rights to Indigenous Australians and recognising rights to young people who were looked after. So doing that work and being the person that I am, I was given more opportunities to get involved in supervising staff and training, and and the whole model out there was really eye-opening for me again. That's the third time I said that, because it was all done with the idea that it was therapeutic, and I really resonated with that because of my experience with like mental health, and that being why I got so that really resonated with me because of my experience of mental health and how I got involved with working with young people. So I got the privilege of being a therapeutic crisis intervention trainer, and I've been able to do that for a number of years, and I still do that. And yeah, look, the thing about therapeutic crisis intervention is that we recognize that trauma has a massive impact on how the brain responds to emotions, responds to the environment, responds to the concept of safety, psychological safety. And if those conditions of psychological safety aren't observed and managed, then you have behaviour that presents as being unsafe and comes from a place of pain. And I see it more now in our young people today. I see it in carers and parents and teachers even, just a lot of adults, we're not all feeling safe. And it makes sense when you consider the history of the island, the history of the city that I grew up, where people are still trying to find and fight for justice during the civil rights movement. And yeah, look, that pain that I've observed does get passed on. And if it doesn't get passed on, that the young people feel that pain, the ways in which people cope with pain does get passed on. So it's very normalized where I'm from to lose yourself in drinking, drugs and gambling and promiscuity and stuff like that, and fighting, stuff like that. It's all very, very clear to see how people are coping with their pain in very unsafe ways. And again, absolutely no judgment, because I understand where that, I feel I understand where that's coming from. And I think the best way to relate this concept that we're all feeling really unsafe is, look how we all coped with Brexit. Look how we all coped with COVID. It really affected how we received each other. Brexit, you're talking about people's identity and sense of freedom and ownership being impacted by the idea that they would either remain or leave the European Union. And there's a myriad of reasons why people voted each way, but it really set people against each other. Same reasons why people might have voted for Trump, who seems to be a very divisive person, in the sense that he divides people. People are either for or against in very, very passionate ways. But I definitely observed that with COVID. People really started getting angry and ill-tempered with one another over vaccines and wearing a mask and feeling like their own rights were being violated, while other people were trying to manage their safety and feeling like their safety was being violated, and yeah, look, again, no judgment on it, I have my own opinions on it, but it created the conditions for people to feel really unsafe. And yeah, look, in that environment where people don't feel safe, it's very clear that their amygdala, their limbic system, their emotional brain has hijacked the way that they think and the way that they feel, and therefore the way that they respond to everybody around them. And I think that's where I really want to tap into as well with the channel, trying to find ways that we can create some more safety, because at this moment in time, the more that we are feeding the fear, and the more that we are like getting into that unsafe environment in our own headspace, the less control we really have for what happens next. You know, that primal part of us is really getting us to fight, flee, freeze, and yeah, that would be. I don't want to be hopeless about it. I'm definitely hopeful that we can get somewhere. But it really needs to be these messages of hope. It really needs to be this concept that we can look within and grow, challenge ourselves, take accountability. As a wise man once said to me, you know, or my father, you know, we can point the finger out, but there are 3 or 4 pointing back at us. So be mindful of that. But it's entirely natural to point fingers, and I do understand. We might feel like we need to project that stuff. It might make us feel more safe. But the real hard stuff that I've learned is trying to look within, and even if you feel like you still have to point the finger out, how can I take some account of this, change the way that I think, take back control over the way that I feel, and therefore I have responsibility then of how I respond. It's not right to suggest that somebody else is responsible for how you behave, just because of the way that you feel. You know, they made me feel this way and this is why I did that. I don't think that's going to be helpful in the long run for people. But look, again, we just want to create that community of positive change and hope. So look, that's a kind of a bit of a brief as to how I kind of got here. So where do I want to go? We continue with these as kind of episodes. I will try to frame them around a particular topic or subject, and the first few that I've identified have been identity. That'll be the first one that I really want to tackle. And when I say identity, I mean from and this is young people, by the way, young people's need for an identity, whether it be their individual, personal kind of identity unique to them, however that might be, their cultural identity, and with cultural identity, there are subcultures, you know, so people that were like me growing up, you know, who listened to metal music and were goths or freaks is what I was called anyway, all the way down to, like, you know, people that are more urban or chav, as you would say, all the way to skater cultures and yeah. So look, like that would be what I would define as being a subculture. Then you've got your ethnic identity, your race, and national identity. So yeah, look, identity being a very important thing for young people, and I'll try to unpack that, particularly at this moment in time when we're talking about um, things like gender specifically, and like we've got gender-based violence because of people's attitudes and their own insecurity of their identity based on their gender, so like masculinity, which is a thing a concept there that I've a lot of experience in. So that'll be one of the topics. Another topic will be intersectionality. So when we've got different characteristics that intersect with one another, so particularly when we're talking about oppression or oppressive practice. So when we're talking about someone feeling marginalized or oppressed because of their race, and then their gender, and then the other intersection might be, their sexuality, or it could be their ethnic background. Inclusion will be another big topic, and look, I'll probably follow the trend of a few more topics beginning with I. Why beginning with I? I think it has a lot to do with the intention, again, of the channel, which is about finding some medium of interacting and relating with young people. And sometimes when we're interacting and trying to respond to young people, our own inner child might not be entirely healed, and my experience of therapy and therapeutic work is that you have to really be introspective and look within the heal, because a lot of all that internalized pain sometimes gets projected out, sometimes, and generally speaking, usually inhibits people from responding appropriately because they're not able to see that they're not ready to listen, or they're not capable of responding because they're stuck, which is the theme for a lot of my young people and service users, carers and stuff like that I've worked with. That seems to be a common theme. So people are stuck. So that's kind of where I want to go with the channel. So I'll be talking about them sort of topics. I hope to get a conversation going with some other people, so. I will try to invite a few people on. I've one or two there that I've identified who are kind of colleagues and people that are in the sphere of some of the topics that I'll be talking about. And yeah, hopefully a bit of dialogue will be good to observe or listen into. I am not entirely precious about this stuff, so I am willing to invite other people on, but I have to also manage my own safety and that there. So the people that know how to get in contact with me will get in contact with me, and that is how you will get on with me, or I will invite you. But other than that, I probably won't be interacting with people that are not known to me at all. Yeah, look, to wrap things up, in summary, so why am I here? I'm here because I care about I care about people, specifically young people. That is where I am best placed to look at supporting anybody that might be interacting with this channel. So who am I reaching out to? I'm reaching out to parents. I'm reaching out to siblings and family members there, and carers and stuff like that, and anybody else that might be responding to young people, might be interacting with them, coaches even. We're all a community of people that have the best intention of letting our young people grow or empowering them and stuff like that. So look, please interact appropriately. I hope this is the start of something really powerful, and I hope a lot of people reclaim some power for themselves. Hope people feel safe, particularly in this current climate where everybody feels like they should be attacking each other. So look, please look out for each other, and please come back.